"2020 started like so many other years. We were excited to welcome new council members Amy Falcone and Neil Black to our elected body. We successfully navigated a mid-January snowstorm and enjoyed blue skies and bright sunshine as we broke ground on the Juanita Beach Bathhouse project later in the month. Community members and staff celebrated as council and park board members wielded shovels and churned dirt. We were honored to launch our Kirkland Talks on Racism series, meant to engage our community and continue important dialogue about how we can work together to combat institutional racism. But on Saturday, February 29th, everything changed. We had all been cautiously watching news coverage about the novel coronavirus across the globe. Never did we imagine that it would invade our close-knit community so quickly. But invade it did, announcing its presence in a dramatic flurry of aid calls and sirens. Public Health Seattle and King County reported 3 positive cases of what we came to know as COVID-19, including 1 death. 2 of the confirmed cases were associated with Kirkland's Life Care Center, a skilled nursing and long-term care facility located in Juanita. That same day, 50 more care center residents reported symptoms. We were launched into the very definition of a level 1 emergency, a dynamic, rapidly evolving incident. Tragically, more than 60 people have lost their lives in Kirkland, and over the past year, over 500,000 have died throughout the nation. While we recall what happened to our city, our thoughts and prayers are with all the families throughout America who have also suffered terrible grief and loss in this difficult time. On February 29th, we activated our Emergency Operations Center where key staff and city leadership were able to gather together to grapple with how to best protect our community, staff, and first responders against an invisible and deadly threat. We reached out to our regional partners for help, including Public Health Seattle and King County, Redmond Medic One, and Evergreen Health. February 29th has left an unforgettable imprint on the fabric of our city as the day Kirkland found itself, unexpectedly, hurled into the national spotlight as the epicenter of COVID-19 in the United States. The city of Kirkland became a national headline, pushed into the spotlight by a global pandemic. The entire world watched to see how we would respond, and respond we did, heroically.
25 Kirkland firefighters and 2 police officers were placed in quarantine after answering to various calls for medical aid at the Life Care Center. By March 2nd, Fire Station 21 was taken out of service and used as temporary lodging for quarantined first responders. Media swarmed our city, positioning themselves outside Life Care, at City Hall, and even at our quarantine space in Station 21. 2 Kirkland police officers earned national media attention as they discreetly dropped off groceries for our quarantined first responders. Our personnel in quarantine rose to 13 police officers and 31 firefighters at different times. But thanks to the selfless commitment of our first responders, the city remained at full staffing through the frantic first few months. City staff reported in shifts to the EOC. To proceed into the room, you had to pass a monitoring station of thermometers, alcohol wipes, and hand sanitizer. Terms like PPE, virus, pandemic, quarantine, and social distancing became commonplace as we reluctantly incorporated them into our vocabulary. In a way, the EOC provided residents a touchstone, a place to call when they were greeted by the voice of a human being who understood what they were going through. We understood because we were going through it too. The compassion of our residents runs deep. They are our greatest gift. The actions we have taken to protect our community members have all been accomplished with that in mind. These giving, generous people are the lifeblood of the Kirkland community. Overnight, blue ribbons sprang up all over the city, adorning the trees that decorate our roadways and public spaces. Hope-filled yard signs proclaiming, "We got this, Kirkland," could be seen throughout our neighborhoods. Our residents formed a collective fellowship of strength, resilience, and underlying desire to support their city and serve those in need.
In gratitude and awe, we did our utmost to match this passion and desire to serve with thoughtful and deliberate action. Every day, we watched the COVID caseload rise at an alarming rate. We watched as it claimed more lives, hoping and praying for the virus to relinquish its hold. By March 5th, semblances of normalcy began to deteriorate, and we were forced to cancel long-standing community events to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Those first cancellations snowballed into an avalanche of closures and cancellations. Schools closed, city meetings were canceled, gatherings were prohibited by the governor, and the president declared a national emergency. On March 16th, City Hall was officially closed to the public. It has remained closed ever since. The prohibition on gatherings became more restrictive, and just like that, restaurants and bars were shut down entirely. We watched as our community members faced reduced hours and outright job loss. We watched them struggle with loss of income, loss of livelihood, loss of security. We knew that we had to act, and we had to act immediately. On March 17th, we built an online resource library on the city website where residents could find reliable information and links to assistance programs meant to help with housing, utilities, food, healthcare, and unemployment. We crafted a multilingual informational postcard and mailed it to every residential address in the city to reach residents who might not have access to a computer or a smartphone. The postcard gave 3 critical phone numbers, one for information on COVID-19, one for the 24-hour crisis line, and another for access to food. This food access line became known as the Kirkland Food Hotline. We printed multilingual yard signs and positioned them in the city to further our reach and ensure that more people would hear about it. We partnered with the nonprofit Sound Generations to enhance call center capabilities to better manage calls from residents in need of food. And with Kirkland being the caring community that we know and love, we further collaborated with Sound Generations to launch a parallel effort that connected volunteer drivers with homebound individuals and families in need of food. A message crafted by our city manager, Kurt Triplett, was featured as an opinion piece in the Seattle Times in early April. It was a pivotal written message that inspired us to move forward in our mission to defeat this virus, and the powerful theme resonated with all of us. Kurt drew striking parallels between the COVID-19 pandemic and the famed 1970 spaceflight of Apollo 13, which 2 days after launch suffered an explosion that instantly changed its mission of lunar landing to one of bringing its crew home alive. It was an energizing message that allowed us the opportunity to grieve, while also inspiring us to pursue our changed mission with vigor and perseverance. As with Apollo 13, failure was not an option.
As the immediate and lasting impacts of COVID-19 began to take root, the City Council held a special meeting on March 31st to consider several emergency actions to help our residents. In addition to allowing for the temporary deferral and suspension of utility charges, taxes, and waiver of late fees, the City Council took quick action to authorize the Human Services Stabilization Initiative, which made $265,000 in grant funding available to human service agencies in Kirkland to extend their ability to help provide basic needs. We acted to help provide community access to necessities like food and shelter, behavioral health and domestic violence services, and other critical human services. Protecting our most vulnerable residents is always important, but it became even more urgent with the COVID-19 pandemic. In June, we reprioritized our closed community centers and the city-owned Kirkland Teen Union building to help us respond to the emerging needs of our community. We were acutely aware of the impacts this virus was having on every aspect of our lives. We recognized the detrimental impacts of prolonged isolation and also understood that our most vulnerable residents might not feel safe in a public setting. So in July, we launched our Senior Hours program at 5 city parks. City staff were also reassigned to serve as parks ambassadors to provide free masks, encourage physical distancing, promote virtual programs, answer questions, and share information in our public parks. We have continued to ensure service to our most vulnerable residents, successfully pivoting our senior lunch program to a safe, socially distanced drive-through program. This program was recently expanded so that our seniors can get free, healthy lunches 3 days a week. Our Youth Council also rose to the challenge of COVID-19 and forged ahead in the virtual world. In mid-May, the teens spearheaded a virtual summit called Quarantine to provide their peers the opportunity to discuss the challenges of being in quarantine. The event welcomed all local teens and invited them to talk about mental and physical health, school and relationships in the context of the pandemic. In response to the need to close our parks' play equipment, recreation pools, sports courts, and athletic fields, our Parks Department created virtual programming free of charge during the summer, including online instructional programs, art and science events, and virtual community building, social, cultural, and athletic events. In September, we were proud and honored that we had distributed over $1.2 million to human services organizations in Kirkland to increase food support, rental assistance, and provide scholarship funding for families in need. And with our eye on the future, we tackled our biennial budget process, knowing that more support is needed to ensure our community's ability to withstand, survive, and stabilize.
The humanitarian crisis grew to encompass an economic crisis, which required additional nimble strategies and intense energy and intention. A business's ability to survive a shutdown of operations is proportional to its reserves, which are usually limited for small enterprises. Kirkland's ecosystem of small businesses was devastated by the pandemic. In March, storefronts were shuttered, employees were laid off, revenue streams ended abruptly, and Kirkland's small businesses suffered in the early days of the pandemic. City leadership recognized the impact of the state's stay-at-home and cease operations orders. In partnership with public and private collaborators, we adopted an all-hands-on-deck approach to help our businesses survive. Staff worked round the clock, casting wide nets to glean best practices to respond to a situation never before experienced. A first effort compiled and released the Business Resource Packet for COVID-19 in 4 languages. The packet detailed health and hygiene practices for employees and businesses, key local, state, and federal contact information, immediate business strategies for coping with the pandemic, a worksheet for documenting losses with the anticipation of future relief funding, and more. We also moved quickly to address businesses desperately in need of cash. Partnering with the Greater Kirkland Chamber of Commerce and the local branch of Banner Bank, we helped stand up the Kirkland COVID-19 Small Business Relief Fund with an initial $250,000 donation by Google's Community Grants Fund, operating through the Tides Foundation. The fund distributed $1,000 unrestricted grants to 250 businesses who were identified by the greatest need. Businesses used the funds to pay for rent, pay employees, buy supplies, or buy groceries at their discretion. In a second round of the relief funding, the Greater Kirkland Chamber of Commerce Relief Fund raised $211,000 in donations, including $30,000 from the city, approved by the City Council, and distributed grants to a further 175 small businesses in $1,200 increments. Several months later, we launched our own Kirkland Cares Small Business Relief Fund, distributing over $1 million in CARES Act funding in $5,000 grants to 207 businesses and nonprofits in Kirkland.
We also enacted a temporary moratorium on commercial evictions and partnered with the cities of Bellevue, Redmond, Renton, and Issaquah to make available free one-on-one business support for businesses and nonprofits as they navigated the complex landscape of federal, state, and local relief funding programs. A partial lifting of restrictions during the summer, fall, and winter months of 2020 allowed the businesses to resume operations on a limited scale. To help Kirkland restaurants and retailers weather state restrictions on indoor use, we prepared an emergency directive to facilitate safe outdoor use of public and private space. Parking fees and time limits in city-owned downtown parking lots were suspended for significant periods of time. We developed standards and applications for streeteries and parklets in public parking stalls and outdoor uses of private parking stalls. We also waived nearly $16,000 in sidewalk cafe permit fees for 17 outdoor dining arrangements. Finally, over the summer, we closed the west end of Park Lane between Lake Street and Main Street to vehicles at night to create a pedestrian walking mall for socially distanced outings and space for outdoor dining patios. Our community welcomed the opportunity to spend time together in one of the most popular locations in our city. Those summer evenings on Park Lane became a reminder of a world we looked forward to returning to.
2020 was a monumental year of change, of shifting priorities, and of deeply connecting to our humanity and compassion. On May 25, 2020, George Floyd was tragically killed by a police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Instantly, our entire nation again found itself facing difficult conversations about structural racism, constitutional rights to speech and assembly, the right to bear arms, and the role of police in our society. For any community, the enormity and complexity of these issues can seem daunting. Kirkland embraced these challenges. In the 3 weeks that followed Mr. Floyd's killing, there were 10 marches in Kirkland and near daily gatherings throughout the city to protest his death and the deaths of other Black and brown people killed by law enforcement. The City Council heard the clear message of these peaceful but passionate protests. It was time for change. Black lives matter. On June 16th, the City Council demonstrated its intention to be part of the solution. We directed the city manager to bring to Council a framework for responding to the issues of bias and racism towards our Black and brown community members. Over the next several weeks, the Council held a public hearing on the city manager's draft framework, discussed and revised the framework, and listened to people throughout the community. On August 4, the City Council adopted the framework as Resolution 5434. R 5434 affirmed that Black Lives Matter, that Kirkland seeks to ensure the safety and respect of our BIPOC community members who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and that Kirkland seeks to dismantle structural racism in Kirkland. R 5434 directed city staff to create new ways for us to report data for incidents of police use of force, activities of our school resource officers, and the city's investments in organizations that help people with food, housing, and mental health. R 5434 also laid the foundation for new city personnel that could respond to 911 calls involving issues of mental health, people experiencing homelessness, or other situations where providing services might be a more appropriate response than law enforcement. Finally, R 5434 requires evaluation of many other policies, programs, and practices to ensure the safety and respect of Black people. Before implementing any of the actions of R 5434, the Council committed to centering these actions on Black people and uplifting their voices. This Black-centered outreach was to be swiftly followed by uplifting the voices of other people of color, including Indigenous people. Since June, city leadership had been meeting weekly with prominent Black leaders in our community who advised us to make nothing for us without us. And so, in November, city staff embarked on a 90-day community engagement process centered on Black people and other people of color. Our goal was to understand how we could build trusted relationships with our Black residents, businesses, and students to best inform our work both now and into the future. We sought guidance on policies, practices, and programs. We listened and learned. One key theme we heard was that it is important for us to understand the trauma, challenges, and struggles that Black people and other people of color have faced and continue to face. Acknowledging the failings of the past is a meaningful start. From here, we turn our attention to taking meaningful action. Building from the earlier conversations with our BIPOC community members, we are rolling up our sleeves to dive into the hard work of dismantling structural racism and ensuring the safety and respect of our BIPOC community members. This work isn't easy, but it is critical in achieving Kirkland's vision of a safe, inclusive, and welcoming community where everyone belongs. There will be many more community conversations in the coming months. We are committed to rising up to meet this critical moment in our nation's history, and we will move forward, as we always do, together.
Even as we met the challenges of the pandemic and call for social justice, the City of Kirkland continued with the business of government, delivering several critical projects for our community. While COVID-19 relief took up a sizable portion of our bandwidth, the day-to-day operations of the city moved steadfastly forward, despite new pandemic-related challenges and obstacles.
Throughout 2020, construction continued on the Juanita Beach bathhouse and playground, and the project was completed just before the end of the year. The roof lines of the bathhouse pavilion are inspired by the roof lines of the overnight cabins that had been on the site in decades past. Juanita Beach now offers 2 distinctive picnic shelters with up to 24 picnic tables, both all-season and seasonal restrooms, outdoor showers, and an enclosed lifeguard life safety space, and new public art. And Juanita Beach now provides our first all-age, all-abilities playground. The inclusive play environment enables all users to develop physically, socially, and emotionally, and includes elements such as a synthetic grass surface that allows for easy movement, swings that can be enjoyed by wheelchair users, and fun and interactive sensory features. We also made progress on the future Totem Lake Park. For too many years, the Totem Lake area has been plagued with a nagging question: is there really a lake? In 2020, we answered with an emphatic yes. After working tirelessly for 5 years to design the park, set aside funding, acquire property rights, and purchase the lake from the King Conservation District, we started construction in 2020. In total, Totem Lake Park will be 20 acres. Of that, 4 acres will encompass Totem Lake itself and its surrounding wetland. The budget for the park is about $9 million, and it is expected to be completed this summer. An especially intriguing feature of the new park will be a 10-foot wide boardwalk that connects the park to the Cross Kirkland corridor. When completed, the new Totem Lake Park will be for Kirkland an ecological centerpiece and a distinctive recreational destination and oasis. In addition to building 2 new parks, we progressed on the redesign of 132nd Square Park, replaced the playground equipment at the Peter Kirk Community Center, and added new play equipment to Windsor and Joston parks. The Parks Department continued to host creative community events, including fun citywide scavenger hunts and our very first Holiday Lights contest. And we found a way to safely continue the park and green space restoration work parties hosted by the Green Kirkland Partnership.
In August, we joined with New Bethlehem Place, the Sophia Way, and Salt House Church to announce the grand opening of Kirkland Place for Families and Women. The opening of the shelter celebrated efforts dating back to 2012 to provide permanent 24/7 emergency shelters to replace temporary winter shelter for families and women. With this new facility, Eastside families and women struggling with homelessness now have a safe, nurturing place to call home as we work together to find long-term housing. And during their stay, they are provided with constant support, integrated services, and access to community resources, all under one roof. Funding for shelter construction and operations came from many sources, including the City of Kirkland, King County, Washington State Housing Trust, ARCH, partnering East King County cities, and private donors from the community, particularly Holy Family Church in Kirkland, St. Louis Church in Bellevue, and the Sophia Way donors. We know there is much, much more to do to help those most in need, but the Kirkland Place for Families and Women is a shining example of what we can accomplish together.
The redevelopment of the former Totem Lake shopping mall into what has become the vibrant, mixed-use village at Totem Lake includes improvements to Totem Lake Boulevard using grant funds from the State Transportation Improvement Board. The improvements help to create an attractive and more usable gateway entrance to all the new activities and attractions at the village at Totem Lake. The project includes 10-foot wide sidewalks that can accommodate bicyclists, decorative lighting, protective fencing along the wetland area, and landscaping. The sidewalk is also being extended along Totem Lake Way, providing an important connection to the new Totem Lake Park. The project will be complete in March. Governments at all levels have been rethinking how we interweave the treasures of the natural environment with the necessities of the built environment. In 2020, Kirkland created a spectacular example of how these two interests can be served. About 40 years ago, in order to enable 100th Avenue Northeast to cross over Cedar Creek, just a little south of Simons Road, the creek was put into a 36-inch concrete culvert. In time, the stream deteriorated, invasive species grew in, and the area became impassable to fish. Last year, we worked to correct those decisions of the past. We replaced the old culvert with a more fish-friendly one. We also placed natural materials on the floor of the culvert, removed invasive species, and reconfigured the course of the stream to slow it and give fish areas to rest. We also planted more than 4,200 native trees and shrubs throughout the project. This portion of Cedar Creek is now a wonderful illustration of how we can help build a sustainable environment. The city continued to make great progress on its commitment to providing safe and accessible multimodal connections in its neighborhoods. Improvements in 2020 included the completion of sidewalks along long-planned, safe routes to school routes, implementing more bicycle facilities during our annual pavement overlay projects, and working with King County on connections to the East Rail Corridor. As part of the Neighborhood Safety Program, we continue to work with community members to find new and creative ways to improve walking and biking safety, such as using colorful paint and candlesticks to slow vehicles and reduce pedestrian crossing distances at the 114th 7th Avenue intersection. Finally, after nearly 2 years of robust community outreach, the Safer Routes to School Action Plan was adopted. The plan identifies the next set of investments in our neighborhoods to make walking, biking, and riding the bus to school safer, more convenient, and fun.
Sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Throughout the challenges for 2020, we kept our eyes on the horizon, and by the end of the year, we were able to adopt the city's first comprehensive sustainability master plan. Our plan is bold and lays out a powerful blueprint to action by setting out clear environmental goals and identifying actions to fight climate change, to make our natural spaces healthier, and ensure all people in Kirkland can live in a safe and healthy community. The plan was informed by extensive community outreach and is built on a rich history of environmental leadership. Environmental justice and equity are also integrated as a key theme throughout the plan. We were careful to identify and prioritize actions that will serve people in our community whose voices have traditionally not been heard in government. Already, we've made progress on one of our key goals by expanding our commitment to Puget Sound Energy's renewable energy program, Green Direct. The Green Direct program is a groundbreaking initiative that gives us the ability to purchase 100% of our energy from a dedicated, local, renewable energy resource while providing us with a stable, cost-efficient solution. This means that all facilities owned by the City of Kirkland, such as buildings, lift stations, park facilities, are now provided by clean, renewable energy and not derived from fossil fuels. The Sustainability Master Plan helps the community articulate where we are now, where we should be, and establishes goals and implementable actions that put the city on a clear path to achieve sustainability for future generations to come.
The safety and well-being of our community is and always has been our top priority. We're grateful for Kirkland voters who, in November 2020, passed Kirkland Proposition 1, the Fire and Emergency Medical Services ballot measure. As a result of Prop 1, we will now be able to hire 20 new firefighters and emergency medical technicians by the year 2023. We will also construct a new Fire Station 27 in Totem Lake, east of I-405, modernize and seismically renovate Fire Station 22 in Houghton, Station 21 in Forbes Creek, Station 26 in North Rose Hill, and fund a temporary fire station to house firefighter EMTs while stations are renovated. Prop 1 also provides for ongoing maintenance and operations. It allows the fire department to acquire pandemic response equipment, including replenishing and stockpiling personal protective equipment such as N95 masks, gloves, gowns, and other resources. In 2018, Kirkland voters passed the Enhanced Police Safety Services and Community Safety ballot measure, which we now call Police Prop 1. This safety measure allowed the Kirkland Police Department to provide additional services for the community. Progress continued throughout 2020, including additional hires in our Community Services Unit and continued investment in human services through funding for mental health, suicide and domestic violence prevention, and shelter operations. The Council also decided in 2020 to provide additional funds for mental health, shelter operations, and human services program coordination. Finally, we set the stage in 2020 for some important additions to our approach to community safety. The Council funded 4 new co-responder positions who will support emergency calls for people experiencing mental illness or homelessness. Also, the municipal court judge and personnel spent 2020 creating a community court in Kirkland, which begins this month. The community court will address low-level, nonviolent offenses like theft, shoplifting, and trespassing by identifying the underlying challenges of court participants that may contribute to further criminal activity and connect them with needed services. These new programs will help demonstrate our simultaneous commitment to community safety and the respect and dignity of everyone.
All along, we have continued to look for ways to support our businesses. One of the central strategies created by city staff to support Kirkland's businesses during and after the pandemic was the creation of the Shop Local Kirkland SLK initiative. Conceived as a digital main street where all local businesses can connect to customers, the shoplocalkirkland.com website helps businesses adapt to a new normal. The Shop Local Kirkland initiative is primarily a recovery strategy, and it takes a longer view than stopgap funding. The Shop Local Kirkland initiative recognizes that business and consumer trends arising from COVID-19 are expected to continue, not just during the pandemic, but permanently. Reimagining the concept of an online-to-business directory, Kirkland's model helps businesses get online and be seen online with a very low barrier. It gives our communities a single portal through which they can shop locally and help their community, friends and neighbors who are Kirkland's business owners. The website is a resource accessible to any Kirkland-based business. Nearly 480 of our businesses are registered on the platform, making for a robust digital marketplace. Consumers are engaged, and we help to drive traffic to the platform with marketing and social media efforts. Within only 3 months of launching, the Shop Local Kirkland platform has welcomed 50,000 site visits and has sent more than 2,000 leads to local businesses.
Our community partners are central to meeting the most basic needs of our community members. Thank you to each of you who has volunteered or donated to help our neighbors. To our human services providers for the very important work that you do in serving our neighbors in need. And to our BIPOC community members and advocates for your emotional and intellectual labor in partnering with us to shape the future of human services in our city. Kirkland is a better place because of each of you. Thank you.
Thank you to our first responders for risking their lives to keep us safe, and to all the other essential workers who have made sure our needs are met.
Thank you to all our partner organizations who have helped throughout this crisis. Local government is simply not able to tackle all the issues on our own, and we depend on our partnerships with other agencies, the Chamber, Downtown Association, School District, neighborhood groups, and many other organizations to not only help identify solutions, but to work together with a common purpose of building up our community and supporting our vulnerable populations, small businesses, and those in need. I'm grateful for all your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you to Kirkland businesses for making Kirkland such an extraordinary place to live and work. And thank you for all that you've done throughout this challenging year to adapt your business, support your neighbors, help your fellow business owners, and contribute to your community.
Thank you to the community members who have generously and candidly shared their thoughts and experiences as the city tackles issues of inclusivity, equity, and social justice.
Thank you to the City of Kirkland staff for their hard work and perseverance despite the challenges of 2020. Your dedication amidst great uncertainty in the early days of the pandemic kept the city operating in a safe manner and chartered the path for cities that followed. You responded quickly and creatively to help our community, small businesses, and people in need. At the same time, you recognized the historic moment and the need to focus on racial justice, and it started the work ahead towards a more equitable future.
Thank you to the entire community of Kirkland for your ongoing, unrelenting compassion and resilience. This has been very, very hard, and you have continued to amaze and inspire us with your tenacity and willingness to make it better. We are so very proud to serve you.